All right, let's get to it. Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Ryan Hall. I'm the Organizer Success Manager at Meetup. Thank you for joining us. Just a friendly reminder that this webinar is being recorded, and we're also going to share the recording with attendees as well as a copy of the deck, including any resource links mentioned in the presentation afterwards. We have a big agenda today, and we want to keep everyone's attention on the content and our special guest. Quick intro. My name is Ryan Hall. I'm a Meetup Pro user and organizer of a hyperactive musicians group. And we've hosted, and I haven't updated this number, it's now somewhere around 340 Meetup events and counting. I joined the Meetup for Business team last June, and since then I've helped our organizers launch over 50 sponsored events through our team's portfolio of enterprise partners.
Hi everyone, my name is Majalou. Probably many of you know me. I work with lots of pro customers. I'm an account manager on our Meetup Pro team. I've been at Meetup for over 3 years, and specifically on the pro team for about 2 years now. And I am also myself a Meetup organizer. I run the Women of Meetup group, which is ERG here at Meetup. And let's get started with a quick recap on some updates that we've made with our event policy. And then I want to share with you some exciting product updates. So let me start with a quick recap. So as you all know, given the recent guidelines, Meetup has updated our event policies. We used to be focused on in-person. We're now asking all organizers to switch to online. You can read the entire new event policies and other updates straight in our help center. So we've added that link right here for you. The other recap, the other reminder, thank you, Ryan, that I'd like to share. We shared this during our last webinar, just reminding you that Meetup is now working really hard to provide more resources to organizers and members to make that transition to online as smooth as possible. So we've listed here for you kind of the top resources that we recommend. These are mostly blog posts or articles in our new blog called Community Matters. One of my favorite is one that we added last week called 5 Handy Online Event Recipes. So kind of guiding you through, for example, if you're hosting a social networking event, kind of the time that we recommend, the number of people, some tools that we recommend using. So really useful article to share around across your network. And also wanted to point out that we've hosted an organizer panel earlier today. Our VP product, Dan Pardis, moderated a panel with someone who runs a beer group and also someone from a Google developer co-organizer with Google developer group. So check it out. The recording will be available later in our blog. So we've put here a link. So highly recommend to subscribe to our newsletter to stay in the loop with any new blog posts. And now let's share some exciting product updates. And just to share with you after, I'm basically going to share with you all the updates, and then I'm going to run a live demo to point out where you can find these different features to make sure that everyone is familiar with each of them. So let's go with our first update. As you all know now, online events are available on Meetup, and we even made this the default state. So whenever you create a new event, you'll now see that it's going to be online by default, and reminding you to use the online field that's available. Highly recommend using that field versus adding the link in the event description. And the reason why is that then it means that, let's say you share a Zoom link, you made that Zoom link only available to attendees. If you add the link to the event description, it's available to everyone. And we know we've heard about Zoom bombing a lot lately. So please use that field to make sure that you secure these different links. Next update. Oh yeah, so I wanted to share because here at Meetup, obviously we're tracking, how many people are using that new field for online events, and I was so mind blown to see how many people are, they continue to meet on Meetup, and it's incredible. So I wanted to share with you some really impressive numbers. So over 100,000 events scheduled. That's all online. over 53,000 events already hosted online, 35,000 group scheduling online events, and for a total of 870,000 RSVPs. So people are still very active in Meetup, still meeting all online, and that's incredible. So really exciting to share these numbers. And because we're seeing so many people meeting online, there are like new behaviors that we've noticed, including people, you know, joining events that are kind of far away from them. We've seen, you know, members attending events in different cities and even different countries. So to kind of facilitate the search of events and making sure that everyone is on the same time zone, we've added new mentions on the group homepage and also on the event page. So pay attention to that. So to make sure that whenever you want to attend or if you post an event, you'll see that your members now can see in which time zone it's being hosted. Next one. So this is a feature that we talked about during our last webinar. We've also communicated with all Pro customers. It's just a quick reminder. The event template is a feature available for all Pro customers that allow you to share a specific template across your network. So that's a feature that existed. And what we did is that we tweaked that existing feature to now allow it to be an online event. So we added a single field, which means that you can create a global event, so that all groups can basically share the same event with a single link. So really exciting new feature that I will highly recommend taking advantage of, and you know, rely all your groups to a main global event. Another online related update for your Pro dashboard. So we added the online event filter. So you can find that on the events page. You'll see under location. You can now check the online box, and you also have a quick filter on the top right. So quickly kind of filter out all the events that are being hosted online on Meetup. And so what we mean by online, meaning events that are using the online event field. So that new feature that we have on Meetup. And now a last update that's not online related, but that's something that we've released in the past week. So as a Pro customer, you have the ability to ask a bit more questions to attendees when they sign up on Meetup. So, you know, the idea is to get to know your attendee better on a professional level. So organizers, when they create an event, have the option to turn on this, what we call a registration form, and they can pick and choose which questions they'd like to ask their attendee. And once you selected these questions, you can see on the screen here on the right, kind of what the RSVP experience flow looks like for attendees. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and now share my screen and walk you through these different features live. And so once I'm logged into my account, I'm actually stealing my friend's account here at Meetup. His name is Mars. So thank you, Mars, for letting me sharing your own Pro dashboard. So I'll just go ahead and go on the Pro dashboard. And I'm going to go on the event tab, because that's where some online magic happens. So as I mentioned, you can now quickly filter out all events that are online using our online tool. So I can use the quick filter right here, gonna skim down to all these online events, or I could just, that basically quick filter is the same as going under here, location, online, boom, and I would apply. Another feature that I wanted to show you. So again, here from the Pro dashboard, if I go on templates, that's where you have the option to use the events template to create events across, event templates across your network. So I'm just gonna show you an example of one that's already been created. For example, if you'd like to do a global event across your network for International Women's Day that happened in March, you could create that as templates. A quick tip here that you probably want to add the time and the time zone, so that whenever the different organizers of your network push that event across the different groups. They know quickly at what time and which time zone that's going to happen. And then here you'll have the unique global link that you can add to that template. And to show you now back to kind of the experience of the organizers who are in your network. So if you're the organizer of your group, so if someone else is running the group, just to show you basically if then I'm part of the pro network, the organizer here, and I go ahead and I create a new event. First thing that I want to point out is I'm going to be able to see now some templates. Sorry for the slow loading. Please bear with me. So here I can start an event from an existing template. So let's say I want to use this, I could select, and then it's going to auto-populate all these different fields, including my global unique link right here. And if I scroll down, registration form. So if I want to add more questions to make sure that I really know who's going to join, like who's in the virtual rooms, I can go ahead and ask these additional questions to attendees. So that's it for me. We're over with the more boring part of this webinar, and now I'll pass it to Ryan to really get into what you came for.
All right. Let's get down to business. So this topic of getting more show-ups to attend your online events, this was crowdsourced based on feedback from our last webinar. So with that in mind, we'll send out another survey, and we'll ask you for topics that you might want to hear. We'll pick the ones that, you know, kind of have the most pings, so to speak. And hopefully address, you know, all of your questions and items that you want to dive deeper into, you know, as we roll out this webinar series. So when it comes to both in-person and online events, both have their challenges, and it's really all about understanding what variables you can and can't control. All events have no-shows. It just comes with the territory. Things come up, people can't make it, especially for free events, that there's usually no financial consequences. Well, there's not financial consequences because it's free. Online events have their own unique challenges too, some of which are unfamiliarity with the Meetup, the online platforms themselves, as well as the distractions we're all facing as we're working and you know, engaging with our communities from home. Now, this is a slide that was admittedly lifted directly from Meetup's first online events webinar that took place at the end of last month. That was broadcast to our entire Meetup community. But I brought this into this presentation because it's super important and relevant, because you want to get clear on your intentions right at the inception of, you know, creating your event concept. You want to clarify the intended results or experience you want to have for your audience. And of course, you want to pick the right technology to support your event, not the other way around. And always, always, always design events with your audience in mind. Not only will you not go wrong, this will help you, you know, come to creating what we call a sticky event concept. Here are some examples of sticky event formats. And these are formats that I've just observed looking at what you, the customers, are doing, event formats that I've been a part of myself, and just some kind of cool and clever things that I've seen happen on the platform. There's your classic group discussion or panel format, lunch networking, a great way to you know, take what is becoming solitary lunches in your home or home office and trying to recreate a communal experience. There's Learn a New Skill workshop. In my group, one of my members, in my group has nothing to do with cooking or food, other than we all love to eat food. But he took it upon himself to create a cooking webinar for our members, which was a lot of fun. There's your classic live stream presentation as well. And of course, something out of the box. Speaking of out of the box, I'm going to tell you a quick story, and not to steal the spotlight talking about my network extensively, but I think this is a fun and relevant story. For the past 2 out of the 3 years my group has existed, we've hosted a no expense spared private party for our members to celebrate our anniversary. This party was always followed by a sold out concert event in one of our go-to venues in Brooklyn. We would go all out with outlandish themes such as junior prom and host an awards ceremony for our members that we call the Brassy Awards. It's a nod to the Office Dundee Awards, if you're familiar. Followed by dinner, trivia, prizes, and special guests. And of course, live music all throughout the night. The COVID-19 pandemic obviously disrupted things for us, which was a huge bummer. So we took the concept online. While I can't say it was the same exact experience as our all-day in-person extravaganza, we managed to get nearly 60 attendees to show up. That's about 75% of our New York chapter plus alumni. And to facilitate this, we used Zoom's grid mode, or some people refer to it as Brady Bunch mode, encouraging our members to pin our lovely co-hosts, Steph and Mark. You can see them in the top right-hand corner of the slide, at the top of the screen for the award ceremony. Again, we chose Zoom because we knew our members would love grid mode and the ease of using the chat and React features. Member attendance for this event was on par with our biggest in-person events. So I would call this a sticky event. I would also call it a net positive win for our community. And to drive the point home about creating an event with intent, we created an agenda that we knew would resonate with our members. We had doors open 30 minutes prior to the event doors, so the actual event could start on time. We also had updates where we announced, for example, the launch of our new website for our community. We had trivia, awards with prizes. We did a Zoom group photo, as you can see on the slide. And we closed with 2 fun options where members could either stay for a virtual happy hour or join a separate Zoom room that we set up for Jackbox Games. And if you don't know what that is, it's worth checking out. Go to jackboxgames.com, where it sounds like buzz marketing. We're not affiliated, but most of us in the Meetup community are fans of this platform already. But check out their website to learn more about their quirky streamable games that work great for online groups. Even if your network is more professional than mine is, this is a great icebreaker or a happy hour vehicle or just a fun opportunity to do something different and combat a new word that I've learned, or phrase I've learned this week called Zoom fatigue. And I know that the Zoom fatigue can be real. And of course, as an example of other sticky professional meetup groups, this is a group out of San Diego, called Exceptional Entrepreneurs. They decided to bring their group together through a weekly lunch networking event that I've witnessed grow every week, and they're doing great. I sat in on one of their events just to check it out, and everyone's in positive spirits, and they do a great job taking advantage of the cool things that are available on platforms like Zoom. Again, this is another example of a group that chose Zoom because they really like the Brady Bunch mode. However, I just learned that there's actually a Chrome extension that allows Google Hangouts to operate in grid mode. So if you are having any reservations about Zoom or just want to try something different, but you like the grid mode functionality, check out this Chrome extension. I just learned about it, so I don't have like a slide ready, but I'm sure you can find that on the Chrome store. And another reason why this event was successful is they have a simple, intentional agenda. At 11:30, they log in, get settled in, help their members tweak any tech issues around using Zoom. And then at 12 o'clock, they just have a basic agenda that involves rotating weekly content, as well as introductions and networking. And another great example of a pro customer who's using a really cool online tool with intent is the Unreal Engine. This global network is operated by the major gaming engine of the same name, and they're hosting some of their upcoming events on Discord. Like Twitch, Discord is a popular meeting application and digital distribution platform designed for video gaming communities that specializes in text, image, video, and audio communication between users in a chat channel. As a community built around gaming, it makes sense why local organizers might choose Discord for their events. But the point here is you want to choose the best platform for your communities to really drive home that intent that we're talking about. So choose that technology platform that resonates with the needs and interests of your community, and simply put, gets done what you need it to do. You'll hear some more great online event ideas in a few minutes from our guest speaker, Eli Wood. Now, the next few slides are all about using the pro tools that you have at your disposal to get the word out and boost attendance at your next online event. Record your events, and then you can reuse and recycle them later. This creates a content flywheel that shows you how you can use a recording of a great live event to lead to more great events. So you have an amazing event experience like my anniversary blowout celebration in my group. Record that experience. Share that with your attendees via email. Also share that with the greater community via social media. Then you have the whole community engaged. And then you have members viewing the content, sharing it and reposting it. That leads to more interested attendees accepting your invitations. This incentivizes local leaders to host more events. Therefore, more great events are created, which leads to more great event experiences. So how do you do all this? How do you bring together all these tools to create your great intentional events? For starters, use the pro event template that Mary Lou demonstrated earlier. I'm going to skip over some of these points because I don't want to steal Eli's thunder. He's going to mention later on how titles matter and putting your event description to work. And as I've mentioned previously, always have an agenda. Even if your agenda is no agenda, make that the intent of your event. Let your attendees know that that's open networking time so they know what to expect. And of course, mention your special guests and activities. Also, use your pro registration form for an even higher touch. The greater the engagement you have right at the RSVP stage, the more likelihood that those attendees will stay engaged and ultimately convert to a show up. And also use a mix of automated and personalized communication. So just to recap, you push out your events using templates. If you have a great event concept that you want to push out to your local leaders, use the method that Mary Lou demonstrated earlier. Also, as you saw in a previous demo, you can use the pro registration form to increase engagement when members RSVP and gain insights into your community's demographics. All right, so the goal of this slide is to demystify the automatic communications tools. The better you understand what the Meetup platform is doing for you automatically, the clearer it will be for where you can fill in the gaps. And I'll show you what I mean by that in the next slide. But here's how the automatic event cycle works. When you publish your event, you'll be prompted to announce it to your members. When you send an invitation, to send an invitation immediately, select Announce It Now. Your members will receive a notification on Meetup via email. You will then receive a confirmation email that the event has been scheduled rather than a copy of the event announcement. If you've selected Do It Later, there is an Announce button on the event page. This reminder will remain at the top of your homepage until 7 days before the event is scheduled to take place. If you don't make your announcement within 7 days of the event, the Announce button on the event will disappear. Meetup will automatically send a reminder to your members 6 days before the event and also 1 day before the event. When you publish your event on the on any of the iOS or Android apps, the announcement goes out immediately. So just keep that in mind. If you're using the app, you don't get the option. It just goes out automatically. And then 6 days before the event, Meetup will send a reminder to members who have RSVP'd yes. Meetup will also send an invitation to members who haven't RSVP'd, encouraging them to do so. 1 day before the event, Meetup will send a reminder to members who have RSVP'd yes. You could catch all of this information for you to digest actually on our Help Center. We'll publish the URLs here, but this will also be available to you afterwards. And then there's the communications you can control. And just to recap on Mary Lou's demonstration, you can use the Pro dashboard to email your network, or really any segment of your network, including roles such as organizers, different groups in your network. You can do it by location, by member join date, and then send your email. You can either use the integrated MailChimp sync feature, or you can export the list and use a marketing tool of your choice. Similarly, you can use Meetup's native messaging tool to mass message a segment of your choice. One example I just wanted to draw your attention to is the member join date. So just as a really cool example, something you can do is you can filter members that have joined in the last 30 days. And then you can then send them a welcome email, encouraging them warmly to join your new event. Some new members are timid or just maybe they forgot that they joined a Meetup group and they're not as in the loop as some veteran members. This is a great way to engage your members right at the start of their membership. All right, now rather than to take up any more time talking about the theory behind launching successful online events, I'm really excited to introduce you to a triple threat: a pro admin, an organizer, and a multidisciplinary designer who's going to share his best practices for launching successful events, both in person and especially, as is the topic of this webinar, online events. I'm pleased to hand over the microphone to Eli Wood.
Awesome. I much love to you, Ryan and ML. I think what you guys do as a part of Meetup is phenomenal. To be honest, Meetup has had a huge impact in my personal and professional life. Building community has become somewhat of a passion for me outside of my professional life. And I even learned some things from the presentation today that I'm definitely going to go back and take away. Love the new online template features and some of the other things you guys demoed. So it's pretty amazing. So, also thank you for inviting me to share some of my approaches for taking our events online for Design Jam. So first, I can kind of tell you a little bit about myself. My background is in design, both architectural, product, industrial, and now mainly focused on digital design as a part of a strategic design agency based in Dallas, Texas, called Design It, like Nike Just Do It. I am a professional facilitator. I facilitate design thinking working sessions day in and day out with my close team, as well as with end clients, mainly to identify areas of opportunity where our strategic design services could help them advance their purposes. So we love to collaborate with ambitious brands. And this actually directly played into the formation of my Meetup, because I love doing this for some really great clients. I've gotten to work with some really amazing companies and government institutions. And I wanted to actually take and provide these services to people that needed them in the community. So instead of going and working in Fortune 500s in my spare time, I actually wanted to go into my local community, first in Austin and in Dallas now, and actually provide some of these high value design services to nonprofit organizations, which created the Design Jam concept. So on the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit about our Meetup itself. So the fundamental purpose of Design Jam is just to focus on designers and creatives and make it about them. So instead of just performing their services for end clients, we want to kind of gather and create impact for local nonprofits in need of design thinking or true like end design services like graphic design, UI design, UX design. So we kind of bill ourselves in a way as skilled volunteers, facilitating change locally. So we team up with a local nonprofit. We gather anywhere from the first meetup was 4 people in Austin to now we'll gather anywhere from 30 to 50 designers in Austin, Dallas, Denver. We've done Salt Lake City. So it's still working on the scale thing, but right now we're actively operating in 3 cities, bringing volunteers to work on nonprofit websites, fundraising strategies, marketing campaigns. We've also designed like physical temporary homeless shelters for people to store their goods while they go to doctor appointments. We've designed mental health conversations in the Austin community, and I think we've actually had somewhat over like 500 volunteering hours kind of since we started, effectively donated, if you will. And so tying this to like getting people to show up for your online events, previously we actually wanted to connect our physical locations to maximize our impact. So if we found one local nonprofits to work on in Dallas, we would actually use Zoom to connect the other Austin, Denver, Salt Lake City locations to them. And this was kind of an experiment to try to, instead of just have 30 designers working on a prompt, could we get 120 working on it simultaneously? This had its pros and cons, and but it honestly like kind of opened our community up to using Zoom as a platform to engage, which now, as you can imagine, in this kind of time of COVID-19, all of our events are online for the foreseeable future. And I think, in fact, open up a lot of opportunity for us moving forward. So on the next slide, I'll kind of talk about, how we're changing as a result of this environment, and looking at it in an opportunistic way to expand our reach, but also increase the engagement of our Meetup community. So my first Meetup had 4 people, and I just kept sticking with it and kept expanding. And I've found that doing Meetups in any format online is very difficult. There's a lot of hurdles, whether it's personal and kind of in my own mind, or in the community, like Ryan touched on, whether it's technical skill sets, or just simply barriers to entry if you have children at home, for example. But we have to think about our Meetup in new ways to really actually catch the attention of people in this time. So on the next slide, I'll try to illustrate the way we look at our events. So if you think of any normal Meetup event that you would go to, this is a diagram from a guy named Daniel Stillman that kind of explains, so all events have an open, and they have some period of exploration, and then they have a close. And on the next slide, you'll see, if we just think of a normal networking event, there's some greeting. The host welcomes you to the event. You can kind of get your snacks, kind of mill about, but then everybody sort of sits down and they intake some amount of content from the host. There might be a presentation, there could be a panel conversation. And then as that closes, you move into like a 45-minute session of networking, for example. I'm sure we can all kind of picture an event we've been to, whether physical or digital, that has this format. Even if you think similar to today, there's an opening introduction, there's some exploration, body of content, and then we'll close with ML and some questions. So at Design Jam, we're kind of thinking of new ways that we can subvert this. So on the next slide, what we've realized for kind of a 3-hour event, that the level of engagement of our attendees starts off really high and people are excited to be there, but over time drops off quite rapidly as they get hungry, as their children start to kind of tug at their sleeves. And the ease of closing Zoom actually accelerates at an increasing rate, where it becomes easier and easier to fall off of the event. It's not the same social pressure as like not wanting to get out of the chair and walk out of the building. We've all been to a boring event where we didn't want to leave and seem rude. And online, it's actually really easy to do that. And so even in our first event, we had about 10% of the attendees fall off because the presentation was just simply too long and not engaging enough at the end. The way that we're thinking about our online events now is oscillating periods, like a sine wave of high and low engagement. So the way we're thinking about this is kind of giving our attendees periods of engagement in breakout rooms, question and answer session, playing games, doing network activities, but then giving them a break, giving them a time that they can actually, mute the video, go to the bathroom, come back, and structuring our events in ways that we can actually facilitate this online interaction more appropriately for the format that it is. A single design jam often runs 3 hours in person. Due to the asynchronous remote nature of work, our event format cannot stay the same because 3 hours of a Zoom call is just not really an acceptable ask in our community, because most of the design work could actually happen asynchronously. So the way we're thinking about it is actually bringing people together, assigning groups, breaking them off into 30 minutes where they can work individually or as a small group. They have agency to kind of live their life, and then they can come back, present their work, and still get that same engagement. And so just being as intentional to take a second to think about what your own mental model of your event structure is will actually increase the care and the communication to your user group or your meetup group in new ways, as a way to just like inject some creativity. So on the next slide, once you've landed on that, it might take a while, right? It's like, whether you're using an out-of-the-box event or sticky event example, or if you want to kind of find your own niche event, there's still a couple of things we keep in mind from a design jam point of view that I just wanted to share, because I think it has a direct impact on how diverse and inclusive our meetup has been for new attendees, or how sticky we've been able to make our meetup for repeat attendees. So on the next slide, the first kind of tip I'd like to share is being very careful about the way you write your event descriptions. So we use Grammarly and Hemingway as tools to help us focus on the clarity, the tone, the ease of reading for our attendees. So by avoiding, say, too professional of a tone, we can actually message to a more casual crowd using some of these tools to indicate how our delivery is, how engaging is the event description, the length of it, complexity of the sentences. And really, we always target a 6th grade reading level just as a rule of thumb. But the main point here is just to write your event in a way that reflects the vibe and the brand that you're trying to communicate to your attendees and the attendees that you're looking to attract. So if you're kind of focused on professional events, make sure to communicate in that format to get the target attendees you want. By focusing on inclusive and diverse messaging, we've managed to build a meetup group that I think is highly inclusive of all ages, genders, races, and it's always a fabulous experience when people come to me and say that they felt included from the very first step. So the next tip that I'd like to share is to make sure you survey your attendees to really know if you're getting it right. So from day one, even with those 4 attendees that were my friends, I surveyed them, and we have done surveys for every meetup. Using Meetup's own tools to go and look at past events, you can see the surveys that were left there. But we also give attendees the last 5 minutes of the event to fill out the survey in place. We want that feedback ASAP, because the moment they leave the event, they're not going to do it. Actual fall off there is substantial. So we actually set time inside of the meetup to encourage people to fill out the survey. We've been pretty successful with increasing our NPS. I think we're at like 67, which is like pretty redonkulous. But we also have learned things from our meetup that we never would have otherwise. Things like people want a variety of event structures. They don't want to come to the same event every time. They don't want to go to that, open, present, network. they actually want to change it up and change up the structures. And we actually got ideas for Design Jam challenges if they didn't want to just do nonprofit companies. Sometimes it's just they wanted to do challenges just for fun. Sometimes they wanted to do competitions and find groups to submit design challenges to. So this has given us some ideas for how we can continue to evolve the meetup, even as we move online, as we kind of go to like a solely digital structure. And I think one of the last tips is using those templates. We use Dropbox Paper and the Meetup templates to plan how this event could be like serially different. And what I mean by that is we can produce like an event format that's like a sine wave, for example, and then allow facilitators to change the design exercises they want to use. They can change the different types of engagement activities, whether it's a Q&A or just simply a presentation. And you don't have to reinvent it every time. We actually have a library of facilitated exercises that we can use, as well as a typical like 4-week planning and messaging cadence that's shared. And this consistency, I think, has created the success in Austin and Dallas, most specifically, because we do the same messaging cadence, the same email structures, always sharing like the time, the place, in the same format so people know where to look at it at the same time. Something that I learned from Ryan is filtering down to recent attendees and messaging differently to them. I think that's an amazing tip. So I think I'm going to start doing that moving forward. So those are just some of my main tips. And, really, I guess in summary, if I had to, on the next slide, Ryan, I think that being consistent in the way we write our description, the way we're thinking about our delivery, as well as knowing when to change it up, it has had an impact on our RSVPs and attendance. There's people who have been coming to Design Jams every month for the past 1.5 years, but we also have fresh faces every month. We actually had the same fall off rate between physical and digital events. So we're still hitting about that 40% mark of 40% of RSVPs show up, which we're really excited about and want to keep trying to improve. And my main tip is that, whatever scale of organizer you're operating at, whether it's, 3 or 4 groups like mine, or to kind of 50 groups, whenever you go to a specific meetup, whether it's physical or digital, like no one wants to be part of a captainless ship. And what I mean by that is that people want you to provide structure that they can participate in. That's why they come to Meetup. That's why they're not out starting their own. They've chosen to come to your event because they've bought into your vision, whether it's an event description, a community, or their friends have bought in enough to include a friend. So own it, just really, whether if it's an online format, people want to feel welcomed. They want, they want interactivity, and they want somebody to lead that way, because honestly, I think right now, not many people know how to do that. All of the people watching this, like your interest in being organizers is really something that is an outlet for a lot of people, and they're thankful for that. So if you're feeling hesitant about your online event, just going for it and embracing what could happen, you'll see RSVPs increase for sure. So that's really all I had to share today, and I'll pass it over to ML for some Q&A.
Thank you so much, Eli. I learned a lot from your presentation. I'm definitely stealing some of the tricks that you've shared with us and share them across whenever customers ask questions. Thank you so much for your time. We have about 10 minutes for anyone who has questions. Just wanting to point out, I don't know if everyone can see, but there were some questions about whether it's possible to filter out online events as a guest. So So now that's something that we've added. There's now an online event banner on events. So when member users are searching on our Find page, they can quickly identify events that are hosted online by this new banner. We also, there was a question about whether there's a survey tool available on Meetup. So there is one that's already kind of incorporated in product. So basically after an event, Meetup sends an email to attendees asking them to rate the event on a 5-star rating system. And also there's an aspect that's more qualitative. So depending on how many stars the event got, we're gonna ask why it was worthwhile or what didn't really work out. So that the feedback is available to the event host and organizer. That being said, you know, if you want to go a bit more in depth, I would recommend what Eli suggested, to really like on the spot, if there's specific things that you're trying to find out about your event, you know, if you want to like ask people like whether the format was good, the topic, like if there's specific things that you're experimenting and you want feedback on, I really like your suggestion, Eli, to kind of do it on the spot and get like fresh feedback right away. And then just a reminder that we will be sharing this deck with everyone via email in the next couple of days. So you can just simply, you'll be able to access all the links very easily from the deck. So I know we've shared a lot of information, so you definitely you'll have more time to digest everything and explore at your own pace. All right, where can I find the survey answers? Yes, so if you go on a specific event page and you look on the organizer tools, you'll see a section where it says like view survey. I'm gonna also right now share, you can follow this link that I'm sharing in right now. It's a Help Center article and with kind of instructions on how to view event feedback from attendees.
Yeah, and if I can just add there, I would say like on the point of surveys, if you encourage, whether you're using a different survey tool or the one in Meetup, the one in Meetup actually gives you a lot of very helpful qualitative information. But simply encouraging your attendees now to do it shows that you're actually expressing care and concern for how their time was spent. Simply closing the event without encouraging feedback is not really like an inclusive way to end. And I would encourage you to at least point people towards giving a rating on Meetup after the event. They can open their app and it's the first thing that they're greeted with when they join the app again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good point. Thanks for that, Eli. We still have time for a few more questions. Don't be shy. You have some great minds at your disposal. For those of you, excuse me, that are still in the room, do you have any questions about just online event best practices that maybe that you were afraid to ask or didn't even think to ask until you saw some of the content that we presented today?
And just as you're thinking some questions, just want to share. Jody asks, what about the surveys when new members sign up? Yes, good point. So this is actually something I always recommend taking advantage of. I believe that what you're referring to is the member profile questions. So when you set up your group, you can go under kind of your member setting and you can ask up to 5 questions to new members joining. So really great way to kind of get insight into, you know, the type of people joining your group, You can ask them what type of event they'd like to see, what type of topics they're interested in too, their level of experience, you know, so that you can kind of gauge whether people are more beginner, intermediate experience. So yes, definitely encourage asking these questions. You can find all the responses if you go on your members page on the group, and you'll see the option to download the members list. And you'll see there under the members list, basically will give you like a CSV file, and you'll have all the questions and answers that you've asked your new members. Thanks for bringing it up. There's also just in terms of also like surveys, sorry, Ryan, of like where you can ask, you know, more questions to get to know your audience. Like we mentioned, we now have the new RSVP form that has a question that kind of already built in that would say like what are you interested in, so that you can leverage. And there's also for each of your events that you host the option to ask a specific question as well to your attendees. So just to recap, lots of places where you can get kind of more, you know, more insight into your members. So first, set up profile questions for new members joining. Then after, for each event, highly recommend asking a question to get them engaged and also get more clarity on why they want to attend this event. And then at the end of the event, welcome feedback, invite them to either fill out the survey that Meetup will send, or if you want to share your own personal survey. And so that means that you have kind of like 3 different touch points to really get to know your members. All right, we're about 3 minutes out. I don't see more questions, so just want to share a few kind of last points. So once again, we'll be sharing this deck. And we also encourage you, if you want to check out the recording and the deck from our previous webinar, we sent an email, so you should have it in your inbox. There were a lot of questions asked, and we added some responses to the deck. General questions about, you know, how to transition to online events. We will be hosting in about 2 weeks. We're still figuring out the date, and Ask Me Anything session. So we're very excited to have something more kind of open discussion. People can chime in. We'll make sure to have someone from our Meetup team to join to be able to answer all your burning questions. So we'll share more info about this session via email shortly. And to follow our own recommendation, we are asking some survey questions to you. So please, at the end of this webinar, please tell us what you thought, if we did good, if the content was relevant. I mean, I know that Eli was fantastic, but you know, like, just please let us know what worked well and what you'd like to see more from us.
Thank you, Mary Lou. Thank you, Eli, for joining us and sharing your story. And thanks to everyone in the audience who stuck around and asked some great questions. But we appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you at the next one.
Thank you, everyone. Stay well.
Thank you.